What's up, everybody? This is Eric from GameShampoo.com. Today is Sunday, January 12th. Yep, got the date right. Okay, I had to double check. Today is Sunday, January 12th, 2014, and I'm going to tell you all about the news that happened over the last week. So let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it. I'll just read down the news posts from the site over the last week. That is GameShampoo.com/magazine. And then we'll talk about what's coming up next week. We've got some reviews and stuff like that finally starting to come out. Finally, stuff is happening. And other exciting stuff. So let's get it started with State of Decay. Undead Labs, the developers of State of Decay, have partnered with Microsoft for a multi-year, multi-title deal. The companies worked together before on State of Decay, obviously, which is now on Xbox 360 and Steam. And the game has sold over 1 million copies, so Microsoft clearly is pretty happy about that. Undead Labs is probably pretty stoked about it too. And apparently there are big things going on with State of Decay, so that could mean a sequel or something of that nature, like a spin-off maybe or something like that. But one thing is for sure, the survival genre is definitely huge right now, and Microsoft is pretty smart to capitalize on it by partnering with those guys again. Double Fine's Broken Age will release on January 14th to Kickstarter backers. It'll come out for early access for everybody else afterwards. They haven't announced a date for that yet, though. But January 14th, that's this upcoming Tuesday, for everybody who backed the game on Kickstarter. And that is only part 1, I should note. The game has been split into 2 parts in case somehow you haven't heard. Part 1 is coming out first as early access, and then part 2 will be funded by part 1 and the success, ideally, of that game. And that'll be like a free patch for everybody who bought part 1 already. 3DS software sales have risen by 45% in 2013, and the 3DS itself has sold over 11.5 million units at retail. Nintendo announced at the end of the year that the overall game sales were up by 45% in 2013 as compared to 2014, which makes a lot of sense because a ton of really awesome games came out for the 3DS in 2013. There was Animal Crossing, Fire Emblem, Zelda, Two Etrian Odyssey games, Monster Hunter 3, etc. There's a bunch of good stuff. In fact, 7 3DS titles from Nintendo alone scored higher than 85%, or 85 points, I guess, on Metacritic. So it's a pretty big year for Nintendo, and I think they're hoping to pull off another one in 2014. They also announced release dates for 2 3DS titles, Yoshi's New Island and Disney Magical World. Getting that right? That one kind of just popped out of nowhere. Yeah, Disney Magical World. So Yoshi's New Island will come out on March 14th for the 3DS exclusively, which will be joining a super crowded March with Titanfall and Dark Souls 2 launching 3 days prior, and then Infamous Second Son launching about a week-ish after that. And then Disney Magical World will launch next month on April 11th. Both of those games will be full-priced retail games, but you can get them at midnight on launch day for the 3DS via the eShop. There we go. Capcom is talking about their Panta-Ray engine for the PS4 and how it relates to Deep Down and how they're going to hopefully advance console RPGs to the next level. Capcom's Masaru Ijuin. I'm terrible at pronouncing names, but let's go with that. I was talking about the MT Framework engine and why they needed to abandon that on consoles and move up to the Panta-Ray engine. We won't use Panta-Ray to develop games for the current generation of consoles. We intend to continue using MT Framework to do that, current gen meaning PS3, Xbox 360, etc. And use MT Framework Mobile for handhelds and smartphones. These engines provide the optimum development environments for hardware with different characteristics and specifications This understandably means that Capcom developers will have to learn a new engine over again, but it will be worth it. Well, I'm afraid creators will have to start back at square one when they learn how to develop games using Panta-Ray. Next-gen consoles have drastically redefined the way games are created and rendered. Conventional theories will no longer work. If we create games the same way as before, we won't be able to give our fans what they want, and that's games unlike any they have ever played. We think we should view this new hardware as an opportunity to tackle new challenges. And then said, don't get me wrong, we believe MT Framework is a powerful rendering engine, but it's clear that heightened game quality leads to a rise in the number of man-hours. So basically, they're devoting a ton of guys to working with Panta-Ray on next-gen consoles, on PS4, probably on some unannounced stuff as well. And Deep Down is still looking pretty cool. They released a new screenshot of that game, which shows the player battling this giant monster, as pretty much all the screenshots for that game have shown so far. And it looks really gorgeous. It looks really pretty. Still looks like a nicer looking version of Dark Souls. Pretty much. Goblin Works and ZeniMax Online Studios have been defending the subscription fee for The Elder Scrolls Online over the last week. Goblin Works CEO Ryan Dancy talked about MMOs bringing in $100 million a month in Western companies, at least, whereas free-to-play games are estimated to bring in about half that amount a month. And given that the number of free-to-play games far outnumbers the number of pay-to-play games, that's still like a really substantial and impressive figure. So if we consider the MMOs that generate the most revenue in the Western market, North America, Europe, Russia, and Australia / New Zealand, a sizable majority of the revenue being generated is in the form of monthly subscriptions. The era of MMO subscriber transparency has ended, but we can still make some educated deductions about these revenues and subscriber totals. And then they went on to talk about the highest grossing and highest subscribed MMOs, which are World of Warcraft, Club Penguin, and Wizard 101 in order, descending order, in North America. And all of those charge some kind of monthly price for a premium subscription. Of course, the deal is a little bit different in Asian countries where the free-to-play MMOs are much more popular. Speaking of Bethesda, Skyrim is not coming to the PS4 or the Xbox One, and listings for a next-gen version of that game were a mistake. Pete Hines, the vice president of Bethesda, tweeted that we have been working on a CMS that runs our site. A bug caused platforms that don't exist to show up for some games. Sorry for the confusion. So basically the CMS ended up printing that there were PS4 and Xbox One versions of Skyrim coming out, and that is not true so far, at least. Nothing announced yet officially. Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls will be available for preload on PC for pre-orders later this month, in late January most likely. Let's see, community manager Stephanie Johnson at Blizzard was writing about the date that you'll be able to get your hands on the preload of the game. This download will begin automatically, meaning you shouldn't need to do anything special. Similar to what we've done with other games, the pre-expansion patch 2.0.1 will contain all of the expansion data that's on the normal disk. So for players who don't pre-download, they'll basically get everything that's available whenever they patch up to 2.0.1. Expansion-only content like the Crusader, Act 5, and Adventure Mode won't be playable until launch, and only players who purchase Reaper of Souls will have access to them. Reaper of Souls will actually release on March 25th in two versions. There's a standard edition for $40, and there's a special edition for $60. Right now it is only coming out on the PC, but there is a PS3 and Xbox 360 version as well in the works, and a PS4 version of Diablo 3 is also in the works that should include Reaper of Souls as kind of a pack-in, and that'll be $60, but that will not be out anytime soon. This is Blizzard we're talking about. Nintendo has signed on a third-party developer to make games exclusively for them. The developers of Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, Super Mario Strikers on the Wii, and Punch-Out on the Wii, as well as, I think maybe that's it for those games, but they also developed some Transformers games and some licensed stuff. These are next-level games, and they are now an exclusive Nintendo developer. They have formed a relationship with Nintendo over Punch-Out and Luigi and all that kind of stuff. And Nintendo was really happy with their work, so now they are officially exclusive Nintendo. We are doing only Nintendo products now. We're super happy with our relationship with Nintendo. There's no reason to look anywhere else. They keep giving us better and better IP to work with, and as long as we do our job and make good games for them, there's no reason for us to venture out. And then they acknowledge that their past games have, in some cases, been failures when not working with Nintendo. We've got up to 4 teams. We were around 115, 120 people. We just spread ourselves way too thin. We ended up making shitty games, really, which is quite frank of him. There are a lot of benefits to working with a first party. Nintendo's great. They give you the time to make the games good. They've done really well. The Wii's done really well. The DS has done really well. The Wii U is not the strongest start, but we trust that they'll come up with something to get it going. And the 3DS was a blast to work on. So, for all you know, that something on the Wii U might be you guys. I'm really interested to see what they do next. Thought Mario Strikers on the Wii was pretty cool. Luigi's Mansion 2 looked really good. I mean, it looked super faithful to the original Luigi's Mansion, so it seems like they're really good at taking these older Nintendo properties and staying true to the spirit of the gameplay and the atmosphere and the humor and stuff like that. So I'm really curious what they do next, especially given that Retro is working on Donkey Kong now, which would seem to be kind of a natural next step for those guys. So I'm very curious. We got a ton of details on Evolve, the next game from Turtle Rock Studios, aka the guys who made Left 4 Dead. And these are all coming courtesy of a Game Informer cover. The magazine has not yet hit stands everywhere, but we do have details as to the gameplay, the classes, the types of aliens you can play as, stuff like that. So I'm going to skim over this really quickly, but we do have more details on GameShampoo.com/magazine. It's a fairly lengthy-ish article with a decent amount of details in it, so I'm just going to give you the skeleton of that, give you the gist of everything. So you get to play 4 human classes if you're playing as a cooperative human player. There's a medic, assault, support, and trapper. Each of those guys get their own abilities. Most of them are pretty self-apparent. Medic can revive people and heal people and stuff like that. The trapper can set traps and try to lure the alien into the traps and stuff like that. There's multiple planets, but they are only showing off one right now, and that only comprises a small part of the story. So there is a story, which is at least better than Left 4 Dead managed for the most part. I'm kind of curious to see if that's like an implied story, like Left 4 Dead kind of implied a lot of the stuff through writing on the wall and whatnot, or if that's like an A to B, like more linear kind of story. They don't really specify that. There's an alien player as well who's playing against all 4 of the co-op players, and he starts off a little bit smaller and a little bit weaker, and by completing objectives throughout the match and like hunting wildlife and stuff like that, you can grow and get stronger and get new powers and basically grow to this huge 30-foot creature that can shoot out fire or use various other abilities. You can kind of choose how you upgrade your alien as he grows, and so you become more and more of a formidable force as the game goes on. So the human's goal is typically to kill the alien, and then the alien will have a goal of his own, and whoever completes that goal first is the winner of the match. What else do we have? The alien has 2 movement modes, stealth and standard. Standard is easier to track because it leaves giant footprints in the ground, but stealth is slower and presumably less offensively capable. And the rest is just kind of tiny detail stuff. We tell you about the kind of nitty-gritty of some of the abilities of the assault and the trapper and stuff like that. But the game is coming along, and we should have even more information next week as magazines start to hit stands and news stories start to come out a little bit more, and 2K and Turtle Rock start to get out there a little bit more. Let's keep it on the Alien theme for now. We've got Alien Isolation news up the wazoo. So first of all, the game was announced for next-gen and current-gen consoles by Sega and the Creative Assembly, which is kind of weird because those guys usually develop big RTS games like Total War. That's their big thing. Although they have dabbled in action games before, they haven't always been particularly successful at it. So that's kind of a weird part of the announcement. But like Aliens Colonial Marines, it is a first-person game, but unlike that game, it is not a first-person shooter, and it's not based on aliens, it's based on Alien. So that means it's a horror game. So we've got a trailer up for it that shows off a little bit of story stuff, it shows off a little bit of gameplay. You get to see kind of the atmosphere they're going for, and they're definitely shooting for straight-up horror, which is kind of admirable when you think about like a big-budget game and how few of these games actually go for being straight up scary anymore, as opposed to like stuff like Dead Space, which kind of starts off as a horror game mostly, but with some action elements, and then just kind of leans more and more heavily on those action elements as it goes on. Whereas in this game, they want you to be helpless all the time, and they want you to be afraid all the time. So the Xenomorph is like this stalking enemy, kind of like the dude in Clock Tower would be like a good analogy, and how he just pops out sometimes and you have to run away and you have to find a hiding place because he'll kill you and you have no way to defend yourself. And basically all you've got is a flashlight and a motion tracker, or a motion sensor. So you got the standard Alien stuff except for the rifles. And you play as Amanda Ripley, the daughter of Ripley from the movies. And you kind of are going around, I believe, a space station on like a colony or something like that. And you're searching for clues as to what happened to your mother, which, fans of the movie kind of know a lot of that stuff already. But you'll be kind of discovering a lot of that stuff for yourself and finding out a new story as you're exploring and kind of making a new Ripley legacy. And I gotta say, it looks pretty cool. You're going to be doing a lot of hiding from aliens, I think, and you're also going to be doing resource gathering, which should hopefully separate this game from stuff like Outlast or Amnesia, which have really similar mechanics. So you need to, like, let's say use a health pack or something like that, but in order to use that health pack, you have to actually build it out of scrap and whatever, to kind of think about The Last of Us and how they had you kind of exploring environments looking for, like scissors and tape to just wrap together and make a shiv or whatever. And there was kind of that risk reward of, like, I cleared out this area, I think, but there could still be enemies around. There could be something lurking behind that door or whatever. Do I want to go behind that door and look for resources, or do I just want to move on and risk not finding something back there? So that's the first piece of Alien Isolation news. The second piece of news relating to that game is that it is not going to be coming to the Wii U. A lot of people tweeted at Sega and Creative Assembly and all kinds of people and were asking, is this game going to come to the Wii U, or what? You announced it for like everything else. And the answer is no, definitely not. Kind of predictable. The last Alien game that was supposed to come to the Wii U did not, so I think it's hardly a surprise that it's going to skip the Wii U, especially given the absolutely abysmal sales of that thing. I mean, the Xbox One has moved pretty much as many units as the Wii U has, and so has the PS4, and those things have been out for like 2.5 months, if that. So, not surprising, I would say, although maybe kind of a bummer for people who are stuck with only a Wii U. So that's Alien stuff. Now let's move on to Mirror's Edge 2. Brianna Pratchett, the writer of the original Mirror's Edge and also more recently Tomb Raider, awesome writer, but she is not going to be returning to Mirror's Edge 2 because she was not happy with the direction of the story, and she was not happy with the original game's script and kind of a lot of the cutting that had to be enacted at sort of last minute. She kind of gives you insight into what happened with the first Mirror's Edge story and why it kind of sucked a little bit. So there's a series of tweets that she put out. I'll just read them all in sequence. It's really lovely that people care enough to ask whether I'm involved with Mirror's Edge 2, but I'm not, and I wasn't asked. Let's face it, Mirror's Edge 1's story didn't review that great for many reasons, so I consider myself a casualty of that development process. By all accounts, it's a new team on it, so I say go with God. Great cool stuff, we always need more of that. And then a fan asked if she was happy with the original game's story in retrospect, and she said no. The script dialogue got hacked up at the 11th hour due to a decision to remove all of Faith's level dialogue. So, essentially, Faith was originally supposed to have a voice and supposed to be a spoken voiced character, and that would have driven large sections of the story, but they had to kind of hack it up and then patch it back together after, for whatever reason, they decided, let's just remove her voice altogether and have her be like a cipher character for the player instead of be her own unique individual character. Moving on, Drive Club was rated by the ESRB. It was rated everyone, predictably enough, and so that suggests that it's still coming along. There's still no release date or even a release window mentioned anywhere by Sony, but Amazon is sticking to an April 1st date, which is probably just a placeholder for spring, like late spring. So hopefully it'll launch around April or May, even June. That would be nice, you know, slow summer and all that. But Sony's giving us no idea, nothing to go on really. All we've got is, yeah, it still exists, ESRB just rated it. So that's good. I think that game looks really promising. Valve has announced a total of 14 Steam machines, or I guess I should say Valve and various third-party sources like Alienware. They have announced a large variety of Steam machines, like staggering almost, and they range in price from the low end at $500 to a high end at $6,000, which I can't possibly even imagine. I mean, I guess I can see like going out and spending $6,000 on a super high-end PC, you know, and like getting there's like space age processors and junk like that from Tiger Direct. They've got some pretty powerful stuff up there now, but that sounds kind of crazy for a Steam machine, which is designed to hook up to your TV and isn't necessarily meant to replace a traditional PC. It's more of like a game console in terms of its feature set and stuff like that. That's crazy to me, but they range from $500 to $6,000. They're coming from Alienware, they're coming from all sorts of, you know, niche game manufacturers as well as bigger PC manufacturers, all of them gaming focused. Although the stats of these machines have not been confirmed officially, so we don't really know what exactly is going on with these machines in terms of horsepower under the hood, which is one problem that I see with this. I see a lot of issues or potential issues with the implementation of Steam machines so far. Consumer confusion could easily arise if you're trying to reach like a larger market than PCs. You know, there's 14 of these things, and they're all vastly differing prices and differing amounts of power and like graphics cards and processors and all that stuff. It could be confusing for people who just want like a console style experience with one specific feature set and one specific group of components inside of it. And it's also odd that Valve themselves have not announced a Steam machine, because you kind of would expect them to be the ones setting the standard for the other people making these things, when instead they're kind of just leaving it to everybody else. So we're skeptical about it. There have been some controller impressions coming out recently that have, for the most part, not been positive, but they're still working on the controller, they're still working on implementing it into games and, you know, replacing the PC prompts with controller prompts and stuff like that. So they're still working on it, but early impressions have been a little shaky. Level 5, the Japanese role-playing and latent developer, is developing a new title that'll surprise all of you. CEO Akihiro Hino teased on the 7th, so 5 days ago, that would be last Tuesday, that the company is working on a new IP that will kind of break out of the quote-unquote sluggish games industry. In the midst of a rather sluggish consumer game industry at the moment, I believe that the industry needs a new game. And he continued that the company will try our best to make a new title that'll surprise all of you, so please look forward to that. No word on whether or not it'll be a console game or a handheld game or what. The Latent series has always done really well for them on handhelds, but Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch did surprisingly well on the PS3 earlier last year. Sold over 1 million copies, which is impressive for kind of a niche game like that in a niche genre on one system exclusively. So they could be considering throwing in bigger on consoles, not sure. They've been doing a lot of experimental stuff on the 3DS eShop, which has been really interesting. Maybe they could expand off of that in some direction. So whatever it is, it'll be surprising apparently. Far Cry is getting compiled into one game. Far Cry 1, 2, 3, and 3 Blood Dragon will all form Far Cry Wild Expeditions, which will be a compilation of all the major games, not the Xbox games or the Xbox 360 compilation. We should note it'll release on February 14th, and there's no price yet. So, if you're a fan of Far Cry, that could be pretty cool. So we've got the Alien Isolation stuff, which I went over already. South Park: The Stick of Truth was delayed again, but this time only by a couple of days. Originally it was supposed to come out on March 4th, and now it's coming out on March 7th. So that's probably the result of some kind of synergy thing they want to do with the show, or some kind of co-marketing effort with Comedy Central or something like that. There's not a ton that you can do in 3 days, development-wise. Or marketing-wise, really. So if I had to guess, I would say it's supposed to correlate with some kind of South Park TV show thing. Don't Starve just came out for the PS4. It's pretty good on consoles. It's free for PlayStation Plus members right now, but it could come to the PS Vita as well. A fan tweeted at them and said, I'd like to see a PS Vita native version. It would be very awesome and purchased by me, smiley face. Would be a great portable experience. And then Clay responded, we're focusing on getting PS4 out first, but we think it would be neat too. We're looking at if it's possible to do. Maybe? Question mark. So, like, a lot of developers target the Vita alongside the PS4 and they'll release at the same time. And it's kind of odd that Clay didn't do that. So, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility at all for that game to come to the Vita, and I think it would be a super great fit for, just trying to survive as long as you can and waste half an hour on the train or on a bus or whatever. I think it would be really good for that. So, going into releases, we have War of the Human Tanks, which just released, and we've actually had a review of that game up for a very long time, and it's not a super positive one. That is on Steam now for $8.99, 10% off of the normal $9.99 price. And that released on the weekend. So we have stuff like Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance that I already knew about last week and announced that was going to come out for PC. But then we have a lot of stuff that just kind of slipped out over the last week. So we've got Recovery, Search, and Rescue Simulation for $12. That's 20% off of the normal $15 price. Rescue Team 1 to base. Missing person found, safe and well. Mission accomplished. Returning to base. Over is the description. Strap on your boots and hook up your compass. As a new recruit to Rescue Team 1, you'll need to use your expert tracking skills to locate a variety of important objects and missing persons. This sounds like that cartoon with the fireman and the police officer and the ambulance driver. It was on like WB or something when I was a kid, except a video game. So this is a first person, it appears, video game. We've got a dude running around with some kind of weird like Fisher-Price looking walkie-talkie thing that says SAR team on it, search and rescue team, I guess. And then there's a dude like riding a bike around or something and walking around a cabin, like a dead dude lying on the ground or something. Now he is brandishing the weird walkie-talkie thing at the dead dude, and the helicopter is coming in to drop off a gurney or something. Not recommended, huh? This game is outright horrible, says Steam user Periodus. Apart from the epic title music, there's no other music in the game. The game's nearly unplayable. That is shocking. I kind of have to play this game. Looks absolutely ridiculous. So that's out, in case you like apparently terrible things. Realms of Arcania 1, 2, and 3 are all out for $4, and they all came out on the same day. That was kind of a stealth release too. I didn't know that was coming out. 3089, a futuristic action RPG, is out for $7. It's normally $10, 30% off right now. And Freedom Fall is out, and it's also on sale for 35% off. $6.50, normally $10. So let's go into the coming soon thing and get into some of the reviews that we're going to post this upcoming week. Some of the stuff is pretty exciting. So we've got the Banner Saga coming on Tuesday the 14th, along with Europa Universalis 4, Conquest of Paradise, which is an expansion for the core game. And we've also got the Native Americans unit pack, and I just totally clicked on something by accident. Songs of the New World and the Conquistadors unit pack. The unit packs are $179 a piece. They're on sale, normally $2. And the Conquest of Paradise is $13.50, normally $15. So a lot of new stuff for Europa Universalis 4 if you're into that game, which you should be if you like Civ and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. And the Banner Saga, it's also coming out on the same day. It'll be 20% off for $20. The normal price is $25. So if you like strategy games, then that is kind of going to be a big day for you on the 14th. We're also going to have a review of the Banner Saga up as that game releases, so look forward to that. Assassin's Creed Liberation HD will release the next day for $20. That's a January 15th release, in case you didn't remember or whatever. And we're going to have a review of that game up as well. Look for that at midnight Monday night / Tuesday morning. That should be right on time with the game's release. In addition to those two big projects, some smaller stuff is coming out as well. Void Destroyer is coming out on the 15th, which is an early access strategy title, and Estranged Act 1, which is a free-to-play adventure game, is coming out on the 16th. Kickbeat Steam Edition is a port of, I believe, a Vita title originally, either Vita or PSP, and it's a rhythm game in which you play as a kung fu dude / lady, and you have to fight along to the rhythm. Recoil, with a K, is an action game coming to Steam on February 2014, apparently, so probably a good deal later. And it's a shooter. I think it's like a zombie shooter kind of thing. I probably have more details on that later. So not a ton coming up on Steam, but we're going to have reviews of the biggest stuff. Assassin's Creed Liberation HD will be reviewed Monday at midnight / Tuesday morning, 12 a.m. And the Banner Saga should be reviewed sometime Tuesday night as well. So look forward to both of those reviews. We'll tell you how the games are. And that's pretty much the news for the week. Yeah, I guess that's everything. So look forward to those reviews next week. I'll have another video up next week, and we're going to have more news and previews and all that kind of stuff coming up as the week goes on. So stay tuned to GameShampoo.com/magazine. Thanks for watching.